filter in.
Should I look at that Twitch channel or no?
Yeah. The chat. Like, the thing is, the video there will be like 15 seconds delayed.
Okay.
And usually what I'll do is, like, if people have questions, I'll just, kind of tell them to you. But yeah, you can like type in there if you want to answer stuff too. Okay, so we are live. I'm just gonna post on Twitter game design critique stream now. Live. Okay. Cool. Wow, okay. Seems like we have a lot of people in the chat. Do one more thing to set everything up. Okay.
I'm gonna be right back. I think I'm gonna see if I can improve the bandwidth.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Alright, Mark's gonna be right back. Alright, but yes, today we are checking out Thumper. That's Mark Fleury, he's the programmer. And hello, Zach. Oh, HCK V12. That's Arnold from the Bokita team. And Thwaj Nardist, that's Theo. Yeah, I mean your Mark, your video's like super clear.
Okay, sweet. No, yeah, I just wanted to make sure my wife. I thought she was on Skype too. So.
Okay. Right. Well, I think we'll. By the way, I really love the intro screen. It like looks. It feels incredibly epic. And
Oh, thanks.
yeah.
That's something we just kind of recently improved.
The music was not. I was not expecting that. Like, it's almost got this like 2001. This sort of epic. Colossal sound, but I think it like works really well. It's more like how do I say it? It's like the game feels a lot like Enter the Void, like very modern, but the intro is like classic.
Cool.
Which is cool. And that's
amazing.
Sorry, go on.
It kind of makes the game seem more important than it is.
But before we can, oh yeah, sorry, Tony and Matthew's here too. Just so everyone knows, like, you're Mark Fleury and you're the programmer and designer of a two-person team, Drool, on this game, along with Brian Gibson.
Right.
Yeah, and also, by the way, anyone in the chat, if the volume from the game is too loud, just let me know. Yeah, and you guys been working on this game for 5 years. All I know is like you guys used to work at Harmonix, and this game's been in development for 5 years. You live in Korea, and the mustache is new.
Yeah, it's an experiment. Yeah.
Yeah, and you Brian and you met at Harmonix.
Right. Yeah, Brian and I met at Harmonix. Like, I don't know. I started working at Harmonix like in 2005, and then worked there for about 6 years. In the past 4 years, I've been in Korea. But we started Thumper like 7 years ago, but it wasn't full time at the beginning. But still, it's been a long time.
Wow. And you were in Chicago for a while. You went to Northwestern.
Yeah. So I lived in Chicago about 5.5 years.
Okay. And then went from there to Harmonix.
Yep.
Oh, cool. Sweet. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start playing this. And then just... Oh, whoops, that was the. Oh, actually, so the one thing with the this is I keep getting confused sometimes when I leave it because I'm not sure which one is because there's only two.
Yeah, there used to be exit, but anyway, this is all very temporary, I think.
Okay, play. Oh shit.
Whoa, weird.
That was the thing I noticed this morning. It was like if I left it on for a little while, that would happen. But
okay.
When I was
oh, I bet I know what that is. That's annoying. Okay.
All right, drool. Well, everyone can see the. Oops. All right, play. Loading. Okay, here we go.
Oh, the chat's pretty funny.
Is it the Korean? I can't read that. You can speak Korean?
Well, enough to understand that. It's asking me if I like kimchi.
Oh. I had kimchi for breakfast today. Damn, this is late.
It's good stuff.
So this is all shaders, right?
What do you mean it's all shaders?
Like the look, is it it's just like a vertex shader, or you guys are it's an animation?
So you mean like the animated kind of tentacle?
The tentacles, yeah.
Yeah, that's all. Most of that effect is all a vertex shader. So, like one of those tentacles is just one mesh that's repeated many times and transformed.
Right.
So there's like sort of an authored animation that controls the shape and sort of the movement of each one of those. But it's all just one mesh, instanced many times, and that makes it, pretty reasonable to like draw a lot of them. And in terms of like making them look nice, like really it's just like a reflection map and an emissive color usually is the only thing to do.
No, the thing I noticed at the beginning was it did like the 3-2-1 thing, and when I played it at E3 last year, it was like ready. Was it? I think did you guys like? I know you guys were telling me you had like different ideas. The 3-2-1 works a lot better than the get ready thing.
Well, that's something I think we're still not like 100% on, but by the way, there's this cheat that you can use if you want to skip between stages.
Yeah.
If you hold, are you using like a controller?
I'm using an Xbox 360 controller. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. If you hold the two like right trigger buttons and then push left, right, you can skip back and forward between the stages.
Oh, okay.
If you ever want to go back.
So like, hold them and then left, right.
Yeah, left, right on the D-pad.
Oh, left, right. Oh, I died. It's like I gotta hold down both triggers and then hold down left and right on the D-pad at the same time.
Yeah. Does it work?
It's not working.
Huh, okay.
That's fine.
Okay, anyway, so yeah, at the beginning, the UI when you try to explain the controls to people, like it's still something we're working on. And it's a little hard. Like I think we can do better. Like right now, there's just this simple content that says 3, 2, 1, X, right?
Right.
And the game is really simple. Like if you've played a rhythm game before, like maybe you don't even need instruction, and a lot of people don't need the instruction. But it's possible to really confuse people too. Like if they're not familiar what the game is, or if they get the wrong idea of how it works in their head, it's like hard to fix that. So one thing we like here we show the button A, right?
Yeah.
And as soon as you see the button, it's okay to start pushing it. But when it's when it's like based on a really tight timing window and you're supposed to tap the button on a specific time,
Yeah.
if we show the button early, there's a certain percentage of players who will just start like hammering it immediately. That's why we don't show it until like actually when you're supposed to hit it. But that also like
Oh, then
certain
it's
players
too late.
kind of get hit by that too. So
Right. I think I remember when I played at E3, the one thing, and it was totally instructed, which is the hold one, and I like kept forgetting to. Yeah, I think it's like if you do the tap and the hold, those can get. If you was like wordless, those are harder to convey.
Mhm.
At Harmonix, you were doing programming.
yeah.
And you guys did UI too, or?
I did. Yeah, actually, that's how I started at Harmonix. I did.
Oh, it's the shoulder. Sorry, thank you, Garlando Bloom. Yeah, you know, earlier I
okay,
was
now you
holding
got it.
I was holding the trigger. Yeah, it's like the shoulder buttons instead of the trigger ones. Okay, stage one. Though I think I. Oh no, there we go. Yeah, I thought I skipped myself out of it.
Did you pause maybe or something?
Um.
Hold both triggers and push down. Yeah, there's also you pause it by pushing down, so it's
Oh, I see. Right.
yeah.
And are these levels? They're not procedurally generated. They are designed like it's the same
Yeah.
sequence. Okay. Through. Yo, I see. Yeah.
So I think that this could, I don't know if you've like seen the game Elite Beat Agents.
No.
It's a rhythm game from Japan, and they have kind of a thing where the UI's like there's like a circle that kind of is big and then sort of comes in, and then when it
Yeah.
lines up with another circle, that's like to tell you like it's an animation basically that tries to show you how the timing works.
Right.
And I think if we did something like that, it might make it a little more solid. Just so the 3-2-1 X is like a little like kind of abrupt and hard for some people to
Yeah.
understand.
I think also it doesn't like the game is so like surreal and bizarre, and then it's like the 3-2-1 is too normal, you know? Like, I assume you've seen Enter the Void.
I've actually seen like the credits sequence to that movie. I've never seen the movie.
Oh, really? Wow. Because there's like there's a drug sequence, and this is like this feels like I'm taking DMT.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually even better than the sequence in the film because like your mind is just completely focused on this. Oh, I think you'd really like it then. I would say you can take some inspiration, but I think your visuals here are even better than what's shown in the film. So, and then like these, these like little tunnels off to the side, that's just like that's all shaders as well.
The little. Wait, like the tunnel you're in right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
So.
everything other than the tentacles, I guess.
It's that tunnel is really like these tunnels like that you go through. They're really most of them are just one mesh,
Yeah.
just repeated, and then we do something because the track and the world's always bending. We just adjust the vertices of the mesh so that they always line up perfectly.
Oh, I see. And then
Like,
when you design the level, you like lay down the track in like a 3D modeling program, or it's a 2D layout.
Oh no, yeah, it's like like almost like a 1D layout. If it's like a step sequencer, we're just placing like positions of gameplay events and when the sounds start, and then we kind of can turn on different layers of decorations or
Oh,
effects
I
and
see.
stuff.
And that's something that both you and Brian will do for the different stages.
Yeah, Brian's done most of the kind of level design stuff up to this point, mostly because I've had so much programming to do all the time.
Right.
And ultimately, like the visuals and the audio and like the way it sounds will be like it's up to Brian, and
Right.
how the mechanics work is a collaboration. And I'd also like to do some level design, just in terms of ideas I have for like how we can use the mechanics in interesting ways.
So in terms of level design, that's just deciding which order of these, what sequence it should be. Like, as I'm curious, because you're on the track, so it's not so much about like spatial awareness. Should I put a door here, a tunnel there? It's more like you'd want to do tap, hold, left, and tap, hold, right. Like it's those are the concerns, and that feels better than tap, 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 or kind of like sort of just curious what the mindset is when you're approaching the design.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit like you could think of it like making music, right? Where you have some different rhythmic patterns that sound interesting or feel good, and then sometimes you need like a little bit of space, or gap, to build anticipation.
Interesting.
I've been into thinking of the game kind of as an action game, similar to like a beat 'em up fighting game where there's like waves of dudes coming at you that you're sort of pummeling. Just because, not that that's necessarily like my favorite game, but I think it's something that other rhythm games don't do as much, as like a real physical, violent sensation.
I love the way you describe it as like rhythm violence, because it really is like really intense. And what I love is like I'm holding down the joystick like incredibly hard, and every button is like I'm thumping. Which the only rhythm game I played is like I think Guitar Hero in college, but that one always just felt like more like trying to keep up with what's on the screen with fingers, and not so much like me trying to like smash things. Like every bend feels so violent in here, which is interesting.
Cool.
I guess that's both the angle, and then the way you guys are doing the flashing visual. I don't know, just the feel is great. Was the game originally? Was there a stage when it just looked like super ugly?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when we started the game, it's a custom engine, and I didn't know much about, like, I'd never written a line of shader code or anything when we started working on the game. So, yeah.
Oh.
We actually have on our YouTube channel, maybe I'll post something in the chat right now, like something of our early prototypes.
Yeah. Maybe while we're doing this, like, just some questions. Zach says, yeah, the circle overlay would work well. Garrett wants to know, is the music dynamic, or it's tied to the level, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I responded to that.
Is that you? Are you Maffy420?
Yeah.
Oh, hey. Yeah. Oh, really? I kind of want to watch that. These early prototypes. Oh, Jesus. This is amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
And you played this. You guys, like, you showed this to Brian, or like, and you guys were like, this is fun enough to keep working on, or?
Well, so that's the funny thing. It was originally kind of Brian's idea, and like he made like some video in 3D Studio or something that didn't look much different from this prototype. And when I saw it, I was like, that just looks kind of dumb. Like, why would anybody play that? It's not that interesting. Like, it's kind of cool that you can turn, but it's really not that interesting.
Was the idea that you'd be tapping at every circle?
Yeah. That's what you're doing in this prototype, actually. And then I think because I just had a lot of respect for Brian as an artist and musician, and I was psyched to work on something just from a more purely artistic, you know,
Right.
perspective. Like we just kept working on it, and then eventually it kind of became cool, but it took a long time.
Holy cow.
So yeah, I think there's always that kind of anxiety when you're starting on something. Like polish matters a lot, and in our game it
Yeah.
really matters a lot. But sometimes, like, you know, your idea is just stupid, and no amount of polish will help. And I wasn't really sure about Thumper at first.
But that, like, so what sort of was kind of the stuff you started working on? Like the visuals, the game feel? You know, was it like, did you start changing the 90-degree angles to more curves? Kind of how, was there sort of a sequence in which things got added in?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I think, I mean, at first it was just kind of like there just was so much to do. We were building an engine from scratch, right? So it's kind of like we just worked on stuff with no real organization and just kept going. And the game got cooler, and we kept making it faster, and then we kept. And we kind of realized that speed and physicality were like the one thing that we could really emphasize. And then when we got this like shader tech that does these kind of cool seamless bends, and it does and it looks really good with reflection maps, that like not only informed the look of the game, but then like we realized that it should be even faster, and that the turns don't need to be like on a grid at all, and it just needs to feel like kind of insane.
So when the sort of the look that happened, was it more you kind of stumbled on it accidentally because of the tech, or was there like some particular image that you were like, okay, this is actually really cool, maybe we should kind of head in this direction?
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting, because it was like we had this tech that could sequence meshes, and all the meshes were just like little cubes. It was you know, they weren't just grids; they were like cubes at a certain point, and then we started making the track bend in weird ways, where like the cubes would like just look bad because there'd be gaps between them, or they would like kind of intersect in weird ways. And it was something that I just considered like a polish task to try to improve that. But when I did it, it was well, for me it was difficult to figure out all the math and stuff. But once it worked, I feel like it was an example of like polishing actually really kind of changing our understanding of what the game should be.
Yeah. That's sort of one thing I remember. I used to think like polish that come at the end, and you just have, you know, your core idea. Like I was really kind of adamant about that, especially as a puzzle game too. That's like not so much about game feel as much as yours is. But then when I showed it to Jonathan Blow, and one of the things he told me, he's like, you know, a lot of people think polish comes later, but that's not always the case, and sometimes you need a certain level of polish to really like convey what the game is. You were talking more like with audio feedback, like with puzzles, right? Like sometimes people are having a hard time solving a puzzle because they're not getting enough audio or video or visual feedback. But your game just seems like such an extreme case of where it really is the polish that makes it what it is.
Yeah, you know, I feel like I had that kind of same insecurity, just like, you know, Thumper doesn't have some like genius idea behind it like Braid, you know, like it'll never be that cool or something, but hopefully, you know, I mean, there's a lot of different types of games, and I think taking different paths, you know, in your design processes will lead to more interesting results sometimes too. So
I mean, I love how visceral the game is. Like it's not sort of this like cerebral thing, which isn't bad, right? Like Braid, The Witness, it's all up here, but here you really feel it in your gut, which is so sick. Oh, hold on. And then you play other games, or like do you just mainly play rhythm games, or because I showed it to Brian, my game, and like he had a really hard time, and then he told me he like never plays first person games.
Yeah, Brian's not. I'm a bigger gamer than Brian, but I don't play rhythm games really, and I think I kind of got sick of them. And maybe Thumper, in a way, like is kind of like, you know, maybe Brian and I both kind of got sick of rhythm games and wanted to make a game that changed the things we didn't like about them anymore.
What is that about rhythm? Because as in, I feel like I can talk a lot about puzzle design. Like I'm not interested in puzzle games that are just like one puzzle after another. And today I was sort of complaining about the. I'm gonna start earlier just because it's easier for me to talk. Like a lot of puzzle games, they have to have the end sequence is just this like giant puzzle that has all the mechanics you've seen before. You're not learning anything new, but it's just like this like big thing, this kind of like big final exam, and so it's like becomes very clear to know when you're at the end game. And maybe that was fine like 2-3 years ago, but now it's like starting to feel a little tired. And I was just kind of curious, like, what are those things with rhythm games that, when you've worked on it for so long, you feel is kind of stale?
Yeah, I guess. Well, maybe I take some of this back. Like I like rhythm games, and I was influenced by a lot of them. And I guess I don't think like Thumper's some comment on the genre or anything like that. Okay. I'm not that interested in like. Right. Its relation to the other rhythm games or something, but right. I think that's just an interesting design approach. Maybe like, take a genre that you don't like or something, or a game that you're sick of, and try to change the things that so you actually would play it. I don't know.
Right.
And I think just in Thumper, there's just the obvious things of like most rhythm games feel really lightweight. Like there's either some like 2D UI in the background visuals, which are the most interesting thing visually, like are actually not important to the gameplay.
Oh, right.
And we wanted to make it feel just like more immersive, and more violent, basically.
And you guys was sort of custom controller ever something you guys had considered? Or not?
Oh,
not
a custom
really? Just like that's like I associate that with a lot of rhythm games.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, one thing that was really important to me was that I like game controllers.
Yeah.
I think that they're more satisfying to use than most kind of motion controller or whatever. Like there's something about like the way they work with your fingers that's just kind of perfect.
Yeah.
And it was really important to me that it worked really optimally with one of those controllers where you're using like your thumbs and fingers, and that there's a natural mapping between the controller and the game. Like, for example, like amplitude or frequency, those games feel quite weird on a controller because you're looking at like 3 lanes of information, but there's not like 3 horizontal buttons on the controller.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing with multiple lines is because that the moving between lines always feels like a beat. You know what I mean? And it feels kind of weird.
Yeah. We're gonna have multiple lanes in Thumper. But that's something we're actively working on. Hopefully, it's like it feels a little bit different. There's our goal. Yeah. But I actually wish that I don't know about custom controllers, but I wish that modern game controllers just were better, like that we could program more types of like vibration and feedback, and I think that there's so much potential there, but it's not really seen as interesting to the people making hardware anymore, I guess.
Right.
Like, how cool it would be if, like, the stick you're using when you play Thumper, like, actually can, like, push back or something, you know?
Right. And I'm sure you probably, I don't know, maybe you don't get this a lot, but, like, is VR something you guys thinking about, just on the subject of peripherals?
Yeah, we'll have to see what the game looks like in VR. I don't really know what to expect.
Right. It seems, and I haven't even done VR myself, but very doable just because it is third person. Like you've got a set track, or maybe actually no, because then you can look up and not look at the screen or something. Or I guess people can like look behind them, and then you'd have to show the track.
Oh, if people look, yeah. I mean, I think there's ways to constrain the view, right? Just like fade it out to tell them.
Right. Shit.
Yeah.
And then just in terms of the design of Thew is asking, can you talk about camera distortion, curve perspective stuff? Is it a screen space warp around the edges, or the geometry itself distorted based on distance?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, like I was saying, there's this vertex shader that we use to build the actual path and a lot of the decorative elements you see. But really important to the look is the post-processing effects we use.
Yes.
They're actually all really simple, and like Brian likes to say that, like, in a sense, like post-processing effects, even though they're like obvious and not related to gameplay, are kind of like the most important thing visually because they affect every pixel on the screen.
My look is all post-processing, so I totally agree with Brian. We're in the same camp.
Like if you were to turn them off in Thumper, like it suddenly would just look it would look bad. And so like the post-processing effects we do are, I mean, we have like a bloom.
Yes.
And then we do like some kind of dynamic levels adjustment, sort of like a Photoshop levels filter. And then we do a radial blur and screen space distortion, like a cubic curve on the screen space. And that's all just post-processing effect.
What's the cubic curve? Like what's some of the effects that kind of what is happening there?
Oh, just that like the amount of distortion kind of like as you get closer to the edge of the screen, like follows like a cubic curve. So it's like
I see. Okay.
So there's not a lot of distortion. Then towards the edge of the screen, there's kind of a lot.
Right.
I
see that. I see what you mean. Like to the power of 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the center point for like, there's also a vignette. Like vignettes are another like post-processing effect that you think is kind of lame, maybe, but like a lot of people like just complain about these generic post-proc effects, but they're super important to how our game looks. And we also do, in combination with the vignette, like an overlay blend mode on the center of the screen. Which is, I forget exactly how it works, but it's something you can do in Photoshop. Like, there's different blend modes, like add or multiply.
Yeah.
Overlay is one that like brightens stuff, but not in like, it brightens the bright parts of the screen, but it's not as like kind of extreme as multiplying. And it adds just kind of this cool shimmer to the focal point of the action in the game.
So these like squares that I see, they seem to have sort of these like lines of light pointing up. Is that kind of one of the post-processing effects you're talking about?
That's just a mesh, like a transparent mesh.
Oh, so it actually is. There's like something going vertically.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's yeah, I think the effect is sort of like enhanced by the bloom and the other effects, the post-processing effects. But yeah, and in the chat, someone. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I know Thew. When he was on the stream, he's working on this game Aerobat, also like this fast-paced game, a shoot 'em up. But he was talking about chromatic aberration.
That looks amazing.
It's really cool. He's based here in Chicago too, and he talked a lot about chromatic aberration, sort of how like kind of the lazy one is just to separate like the green and the pink channel or something, kind of like the default one. And so it looks really bad. And he does one where it's like the entire color spectrum. I was wondering if you have chromatic aberration as well.
We do, and we're probably doing the lazy bad one. Maybe we can improve it. Yeah, we just do it as like along with the distortion. Like the more the stuff gets distortion, the more we add the aberration. I think we're doing probably the most generic thing possible. But yeah, that would be a cool thing to potentially improve. Should write that down. But yeah, someone in the chat asked about the score.
Yeah.
Like with doing more in-game counting up of the score. So right now, like there's a scoring system, and it's really not finished, and it's actually exploitable, and like we're gonna change a lot of that. But you can see like right now.
I didn't even notice I had a score.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing. As far as we're concerned, like we're gonna show it, when you die and restart, or when you go past a checkpoint, you see the score appear, and it counts up based on all the points you got in that section of the level. And I guess we just like kind of the HUDless feel of the game, and I guess we think that people who care about score are gonna notice it anyway, and we don't like kind of want it in everyone's face all the time. At least that's what we think right now.
Yeah, I love the HUDless approach. It's so clean. I just want to soak in the visuals. I was wondering, just like in terms of stuff, do you kind of see movies like with me? Like if I watch movies and there's like a really cool scene with some really cool architecture, immediately I'm like, I want to put that in the game. And I was wondering if for you guys the visuals is more. Do you guys kind of get that, like when you watch a film and it's got a really neat dream sequence?
Yeah, I mean, Brian's, the main visual mind behind the game, but we do talk about it, and I guess our game is less based on reality. Well, I guess movies have dream sequences, psychedelic stuff in them. I think that Enter the Void was an influence on Brian to a certain extent, and I think we've also tried to like keep some of the psychedelic stuff more restrained, so it's not just about a lot of colors. Sometimes it's kind of about sort of monumental, epic sci-fi feeling. So like 2001 would be an influence there.
Yeah, definitely the opening is very 2001. Oh, so sick. What the hell? Damn, the game looks so good.
Thanks.
Yeah, and now this is like, now it's got that like spacey epic. I think it's like the trumpet. I'm actually not a very.
I think it's a French horn.
French horn, yeah. Oh, is that the?
Oh god, that's really sad.
Was that?
It's dying trying to call home.
Was that my?
It's trying to like send data to my server.
Oh shit!
I didn't realize that would crash the game. Whatever. You can go back to that point.
I actually just kind of really like going from the beginning. It's not. I had another question that I wanted to talk about, but then I forgot. Oh yeah, but yeah. Just so like you say, you do play some rhythm games, but what do most of the games like? Have you been playing anything recently? Your go-to stuff?
Just games in general.
Just games in general, yeah.
I've been playing The Witness.
Oh, what do you think of that?
I think it's been amazing, and then like I guess I'm like totally in the middle of it, so I don't really know what to think.
Interesting. Yeah, and you take lessons from that, like so for me, The Witness, like I have to play it, right? I mean, it just in terms of like, for a long time I'm very much, I think not so much now, but in that Jonathan Blow school of game design of like having this mechanic and you try to explore like every single permutation of it. Like I have to play that to like see what he does, because I'm also working on a first-person puzzle game. Like, do you feel like you can take lessons there from what he's done to apply to Thumper?
I mean, there's quite different style of game. I really do respect him a lot, and I think he's very inspirational. And that game is inspirational to me, maybe in a kind of indirect way. Maybe it reminds me that working on my game is actually worth it or something, because I've been working so hard, and it's nice to play like a finished, beautiful game. But you know, I think that like the source of inspiration, like I was kind of saying earlier, like hasn't been so much other rhythm games, but like action and racing games, like the feel of Mario Kart, or some like fighting games, like the games that Platinum Games makes. I don't know if you played those.
No, I play like The Sims and NBA 2K almost exclusively.
Oh, okay.
Like I've got terrible taste. I play the puzzle games that come up. By the way, can I show other levels? So I think I've been up to 15. Can I?
Well, you were on the final stage.
Okay.
When it crashed.
And is that gonna crash every time I get there?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I've never seen. I didn't know that the analytics thing would crash.
We'll just kind of keep playing because I'm actually pretty good at this, I think. But also the easier ones make it easier for me to talk. By the way, so you were saying like games as inspiration, or that you're Mario Kart and sort of more game feel and fighting games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, for the next game we make, maybe it'll be like some like crazy simulation, not an action game at all, but who knows?
Right.
And
go on.
I was gonna say one game that I think helped me enjoy The Witness too, because The Witness is pretty tough, right? Like you have to solve all these hard puzzles.
Yeah.
And you have to like convince yourself that it's worth it and worth the time. And I played this game called Snakebird.
Oh yeah, I did too.
I beat the whole thing, and I think that's like a good primer for The Witness.
I can't tell if Snakebird is good or not because it's like that game has no pacing. Like,
well, yeah,
it
like
introduces
the
and then
like,
it's just really hard. The Witness does have pacing, sort of.
I guess it might, but I guess it kind of depends how you play it, and I think you can hit walls in the same way that you can in Snakebird. And Snakebird was like my favorite game of last year.
Oh shit! Okay, I'm surprised that like yeah, that's actually kind of surprising. I would have thought another game, but and you like that because like it was charming or
I just thought I like puzzle games, and I felt like that was one of the best ones I played because it I mean it does like the things The Witness does, right? Like it doesn't repeat itself, and it just I like how the it's so stripped down, and you're just staring at like something with like so few elements, and you're like, how can this be possible? And then and then you get the same kind of satisfying feeling when you solve the puzzle. So
the that sense of I think like sort of the best puzzles are the ones where when you see it, it looks impossible. But then like actually the best analogy I've gotten for puzzle design is actually Po-Hong Chen. He went to Digipen. He worked on this game Perspective.
Yeah, I met him.
Yeah, and when I showed him my game like 3 years ago, you seen that film Prestige, the Christopher Nolan film about like in the trailer they talk about they're like in the trailer they're like a magic act consists of 3 parts. Like first you show the audience something normal. You're like, here's a bird, and get them to feel it. And then the second part is you make that bird disappear. So you show them something kind of cool, but that's not good enough. Like what you have to do is you got to bring the bird back. And with like a puzzle design, it's like you show the mechanic, and then you're like, okay, you can do this, and then you show them it's like sort of a variation of the idea. Like now there's something really cool you can do as a result of what you've learned already, but is not immediately obvious. So I like for me when I design puzzles, they're kind of built around that 3-act structure. Like it's forming a sentence, but with puzzles, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool. You know, I think the type of game that I actually enjoy the most is like, I think like it's good that I'm working with Brian, who's not is a gamer, doesn't play like the same type of games, because I almost have to resist this urge to like add more mechanics to Thumper, or like
Right.
It's kind of or what I should say is like I have this urge to like add things or want to like fully explore mechanics in Thumper, but a lot of what makes it the experience it is that like there's no room for anything else,
Right.
because it's too fast or something. And I do want there to be a progression in Thumper, like the sensation you get playing a Mario game where you've learned some basic mechanics and then levels stress them in new ways, or a few things are introduced as you play the game that like keep you interested and makes it feel like a big journey, right? And I hope that Thumper has that same feeling, but we have to be really restrained in how we do that.
Yeah. I think I probably told you the story, Brian. Like, for those of you that don't know, Brian is in a band called Lightning Bolt from Rhode Island, and they're like a noise band. I don't even know what the genre is, but I remember I saw him in Chicago, saw them play in Chicago like 10 years ago when I was in college, like in one of the campus coffee shops. And I went because this girl really liked them. And the whole time I was just like, what the hell in the world is this music? Like it really made an impression on me, but at the time, like, as someone who was not exposed to anything like that before, it was just like, what the hell is this?
That's cool. That's one of the best feelings, I think, and music can do that almost like unlike anything else, where it sounds like noise or something to you, and then it becomes like your favorite thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it was also part of like the theatricality of it. Like, I don't think Brian was wearing a mask, but the drummer of Lightning Bolt wears a mask. Right, and it was just like a bassist and a drummer, and I couldn't make out the melody. And now, like, I listen to a lot of ambient music. Do you know William Basinski?
Maybe.
He's like most famous for the disintegration loops, which is like in the 70s he worked a lot with tapes, and then in like 2001 he wanted to digitize his tapes, so he like put them on a loop, and then what had happened was he forgot about them, and by the time he went back, the dust had worn off the tapes, so he had lost all his music. But then when he listened to the tracks, they end up being these like 1 hour long tracks of this 15-second melody repeated over and over again as it slowly disintegrates.
Okay.
It's just it's lovely, like one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever. But it's sort of like Lightning Bolt, where if you're used to this like chorus verse kind of like conventional music, you're just like, what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff. I mean, one of the things that keeps me motivated about Thumper, and I mean, okay, so someone in the chat asked like what the main character is, and it's a beetle, a space beetle. And it's good to keep in perspective that this game is about a beetle and you're trying to kill some giant head that's like evil or something. So I don't want to like get too theoretical about the game, but I really love the fact that it's going to be on PlayStation 4, and that like PlayStation 4s are in like homes with little children.
Yeah.
And that something like this, I hope, kind of can open up, maybe, blow some minds and get them interested in different types of music or something. I don't know. I hope.
I have this like one of the like this memory I have as a kid was like this Saturday morning I turned on the TV and they were playing Nightmare Before Christmas. Is that the name of the movie? Yeah, the Tim Burton film. and I sort of like jumped into the middle of it, and I remember it being incredibly creepy and disturbing. That when I watched the film again as an adult, it like is not that. I don't know, like it has sort of had this atmosphere where, because I didn't know what was going on, it felt especially disturbing, and the art style, and I feel like this will like fuck up some kid's mind in a good way. But
Right.
I can
Hope
see
so.
some kid like kind of discovering this game when no one is at home and just being like, holy shit. And like in terms of the way you guys work together, because Brian is in the States and you're in Korea, you guys sort of like you kind of work when he's sleeping, and then you give feedback, and then when you wake up, he's got, he's done a bunch of stuff and he gives you feedback. Is that kind of how you guys work together?
Yeah, in theory, it's definitely not ideal, but we both are we both like working independently, so we both do that a lot, obviously. And yeah, if we're on a good schedule, then it usually works out, like where we can chat like every other day and just keep working on the game. Like at this point, we have so many things that we just know need to get done. It's been pretty easy. We have this one thing that I've like mentioned on our blog and stuff before, where we can we have an editor, and we built the editor and the engine and stuff, and there's like a lot of different objects, like a mesh or something in the editor, and we can send a URL that links to a specific object in the editor. Like you can register a custom like protocol. So instead of like HTTP, it's like drool : / and then like the path to the object. And then when we send that to the other person, if they click it, it opens up that object in the editor. And this has been so useful, because it just makes like the burden of trying to communicate about the game structure and stuff like so much lower.
I see. Yeah, I guess there's in terms of development, so one of the things I've been doing, kind of where I'm at in terms of development of my game, is we spent about a year ago, I realized what was holding me up in my level design was all my tools. Like, they were just getting in the way. There were all a bunch of like programming bugs. We sat down and spent about 6 to 8 months working on tools so that I can create kind of get in that flow state. And is that a big part of sort of what development has been, like both internal tools for you guys, like what you just talked about, to help with working together, and also gameplay stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. Like, I mean, we bit off so much, right? Like, making an engine, making a 3D game. Like, it would have been smart to make something that was more within my wheelhouse, where like the kind of the baseline implementation was like already within my abilities.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's awesome because I feel like I improved a lot as a game creator, but like it's so much work where like you have to be always ready to like switch context, right? Like sometimes we're doing really cool high level stuff and like making the game better, and then other times I'm like, oh, I guess I need to spend a week so that I can draw profiling timers on the PS4. Like you have to go back to like really low level stuff all the time. If you're trying to like ship a game, and like we're trying to do it on 2 platforms at once, and so it's a lot of work. But
and then you your schedule is you sort of like wake up and work 8 hours, and then
lately I've been on the kind of 7-day a week, like 12 hours a day schedule.
Shit,
so.
Okay, yeah.
We've been crunching for a big deadline, so we actually have like a big announcement coming out this week.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
And I had some other. Oh, there was one question. Somebody talked about procedural generating the levels. Is that something you guys are considering?
Right. So like what you've been playing this whole time is like the first level of the game, probably, right? And so it's very tight. Well, like we authored it all so that it's like smooth difficulty ramp and stuff, so it might not make sense to make it randomized. And I think conceptually, maybe kind of long term, we're interested in like sort of maybe a roguelike mode for the game, because it would be possible to do, where it's like a daily challenge or randomly generated levels.
Yeah.
And maybe even in the kind of like, so the main game will be like a campaign of like 10 levels or something.
Yes.
And maybe one of those, like, just because I think it would be kind of cool artistically, will be random or something.
Right.
And so we might just do some R&D on that, and then if we have time, or maybe like in a future update for the game, we'll do like a procedural random level if it's cool.
Okay, so we're almost at 9, so we'll kind of wrap it up.
Sure, man.
And one thing I wanted to ask you is, you know, you were organizing the kind of the indie meetup in Korea. How did that go? Can you tell us a bit about sort of the community there? I know Arnold Vanier. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. He's working on Bokita. He's also based in Korea. And I think that's it. I don't know. And Sun Park, Turtle Cream. Other than that, I don't know too many Korean indie developers. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few other guys making cool stuff, like my friend Jay and his game Gassy Mob, which is a really it looks kind of like Keita Takahashi style art with like farting mechanics.
Okay.
Worth checking out, Gassy Mob. But yeah, like we just have a monthly meetup, and I think that what would I say about the scene in Korea? Like, I guess I don't like using this like term like behind or something, like it's behind the West or something, but like there's like a lot of talent here and a lot of people doing cool stuff, but there's like not a real like the kind of niche of what an indie game is, and like that people should look for it and buy that kind of thing because it's worthwhile, is not something that's like well developed here yet.
Right.
And but I think it's growing, and there's like we had this big festival in Busan last year, which was really fun, and we're gonna have another one in September, I think, this year.
Busan Indie
Connect,
yes.
Yeah.
And you're organizing that.
I help organize it. Yeah, but it's like a big festival with a lot of people working on it.
Yeah, I'm in Chicago. We've got. You know you've been here for Bit Bash, but I think
Bit Bash was maybe my favorite event I've been to.
Oh, cool. Yeah, but I was gonna say, like, we sort of the Young Horses, they made Octodad. Which is a game that's totally different than what I'm doing, right? And they have very different sort of design approaches, but they've been, in a lot of ways, sort of like the biggest help for me, both creatively and kind of just on the business side of games, right? Because it's like they just went through the whole process of making a game in this current climate, and like, yeah, it's sort of really great to have someone local who you can ask about all that stuff, like, you know, platforms and marketing. And anyway, yeah, I think like the local community is super important.
Yeah, that's awesome. In Chicago, when I graduated from Northwestern in 2003, and I wanted to work in games there, or I wanted to work in games in general, and like in Chicago, like the only option at the time was like work on Mortal Kombat or some EA Sports game, or like maybe a pinball game or something. Like that was really the only thing going on as far as I could tell.
There's casino games. I don't know if you, but we got a bunch of studios. And then how did you end up at Harmonix?
So you know Robin Haneke?
Oh yeah. She's Phenomena.
Right. She was a graduate student at Northwestern when I was an undergraduate, and I talked to her about breaking into the industry, and she recommended harmonics just based on my interests. And
This was pre-Rock Band or
it was pre-Guitar Hero, yeah.
Guitar Hero? Okay.
I actually joined right when the first Guitar Hero was in development, so I had great timing. But
Wow.
I think what the thing that was most valuable about her advice is that like the people at Harmonix were cool and that they were good people to work for.
Yeah.
And so I had a really good experience there. Like even regardless of the games we made, it was just like a good place to work and learn about how to make games, which I think a lot of people jumping straight into like, I'm going to make my own game by myself. I mean, at least you have Unity and stuff, but it's still really hard. And I don't know that I could have done this without all the experience I had doing like stuff at a bigger company.
Right. Yeah, that's sort of the one thing I really wish I had was experience at a big studio. I mean, you know, I had worked at an ad agency and sort of had some like exposure to kind of design in a pipeline, but I'm just like, man, I wish I worked as like a tools engineer at a studio before that. That would have kind of prevented me from making so many mistakes. Like, you know Lucas Pope?
I don't know him. I know his game though.
Papers, but he's in Japan, so he's not actually that far from you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But he was a tools programmer at Naughty Dog, and you kind of see that like when he talks about development of his games, like he's sort of able to do a lot of really complex stuff on his own because he's, you know, when technical problems happen, he's able to kind of like lift up the hood and fix everything.
Yeah.
And you, when you started at Harmonix, you were doing programming.
Yeah, I was a pretty junior guy. Like I mean, I was competent, I guess, in C++, but
Right.
I did user interface stuff. Like I made all the menus for like this huge karaoke game they made. Was the first thing I did.
Wow. All right. Well, I think it's 9, so it's been about an hour. We'll kind of just take a few minutes, see if people in the audience have any questions. But huge thanks for coming on the stream and chatting.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone who watched. It's cool that they're interested.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm super excited about the game. Like, I think it looks phenomenal. I really wish I were working on it, and I don't say that about a lot of games.
Thanks.
It feels like it knows what it wants to be and just like really runs with it and kind of yeah. So
I realized what that crash was. That crash was actually a missing shader.
Ah, okay.
It's too bad.
Do you have Internet's live? Thank you. Did you have you guys haven't announced a release date or yet, right?
No, it'll definitely be out this year.
Got it. And you guys are gonna do simultaneous PC, PS4.
Yeah.
Maybe, okay.
Yep.
And then are there is the game being shown at any events coming up? PAX East or PAX Prime?
We hope to be at PAX East, although I think it's not announced yet what's going to happen, but I think we'll be there in some way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do I hit escape to, okay. Let me just, and then if people want to learn more about the game Thumper Game, that is the website, newsletter, trailer. So share this. This is okay if I post it, right? This Thumper prototype. I think it's actually incredibly inspiring. Like, I thought early versions of my game looked bad, and this is, it's really incredible. Just the difference.
There's one more prototype video on our YouTube channel too, if you want to see another bad looking version of the game.
Let me actually kind of, since we're here, we'll just look that up.
Just scroll down, you'll see it. But someone asked, how long did I take to learn the shader programming? So I think it's just been an ongoing process. Like I kind of understood what 3D rendering was, like how matrices worked, and that like you're doing a bunch of transforms to take 3D
Oh,
data into a 2D data. I mean into a 2D image. And but the cool thing about learning from like shader, like before there were shaders, you had to use like some kind of fixed function pipeline, right? Like DirectX 8 or earlier, or whatever, or 7 or earlier. And so a lot of what was happening was like hard coded into the hardware, and you wouldn't necessarily have to understand it very well. You just kind of had to learn how to use the API. But the nice thing about shaders is that like you actually are kind of implementing more of what 3D rendering is, and like you're implementing the lighting model and stuff. So even if you do the simplest, most generic like lighting model and vertex transforms, you'll still learn a lot more about graphics programming, and that's what I really liked about just kind of starting from scratch.
do you guys think the engine you'll want to use it again for other? I guess it depends on what game you're making. Your next, like, have you thought about next project after this
Very
Thumper 2?
vaguely, there's like a couple things I'm interested in, or general themes and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I definitely want to use a lot of the engine. Like, there's a lot of stuff. Like, I don't want to make the same type of game, so there's a lot that won't maybe be relevant. But there's a lot of things I won't have to do again. Like, I don't have to make a file system, or there's just so much stuff you have to do that's not that interesting, actually.
Right. Um, yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I think that's pretty much it for questions. By the Garrett Polk in the stream, he was working on this like 1D game that's got some. It's very different, but I think when you said you had like a 1D level editor that had some kind of reminded me of that.
Oh, okay. I
Um,
thought he was just making a joke, but it said, "Oh, that's cool."
yeah.
I
So
want
his
to.
game is called 1D, WONDEE. But you'll also be at GDC.
Me? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that was a Mark Flurry, and we were checking out Thumper game, which Thumper, and I'm super excited about that. So thanks for joining us, and thank you to everyone in the chat for watching. And if you like the stream, you should follow my channel. All right, we are going to end it now. So cool. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.